My name is Brian. I hope that my videos can be used as a catalyst to help you on your journey. I started this channel a few years ago, about 2 years ago really. I got serious about content creation, and I make videos about culture, history, and worldviews, perspectives. When I was a kid, I used to always like watching the shows where foreigners would travel to different countries and engage with the locals. So naturally, when I grew up, I said that's what I wanted to do. So that's basically what I do to a certain degree. I do just that. So I've been to about 5 countries thus far. But I would say that in my journey thus far, I have learned a lot, which led to more questions. So in this video, I want to discuss how I am taking on the process of learning Spanish, learning Espanol. Currently, I have a book that's completely in Spanish. Yo no soy tu perfecta hija de Mexicana by Erica L. Sanchez. And yesterday, guys, my eyes was open to a new struggle. So I live in Houston, Texas. I live in a suburb of Houston. And yesterday, guys, I set out to find a Rihanna Valera Spanish Bible. And I failed. I could not find a Bible in Spanish. I went to 4 bookstores. I'm going to talk about 3 because 1 was closed. In the 3 bookstores I went to, I couldn't find no book. I could not find any book that was either translated in Espanol or, written in Spanish for the purpose that I was looking for. So I was like, man, it's crazy. I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, with all due respect, I'm like, is at least 1 million Hispanic people in Houston, for sure. And I could not find 1 Bible in Spanish in Houston. So at that point, I was like, well, let me find a book in Spanish too. Like I was doing both. I wanted a Bible in Spanish. That was my preferred choice because I used the internet. And I really use the Bible not just for like religious purposes, but to learn the language. It's something that I grew up with, that I'm familiar with, so I could use the Bible as a reference point to understand Spanish, right? So I was like, well, let me find a book in Spanish. It wasn't until I went to 2nd Ward where I found a book in Spanish. So the first 2 bookstores was in Spring. I went to 1 bookstore, then I went to a 2nd bookstore. That's a house, and it has over 50,000 books in this house, and each room is a library, and just books on books, like a house of knowledge. And I asked one of the owners or one of the workers, I'm like, hey, do you guys have any books in Espanol, And he was like, nah. He was like, we have books in English about Spanish, but no books in Spanish. So I've been to Colombia, Cuba, Puerto Rico, and so some people would argue that I started hearing Spanish from people that speak with a thicker accent. But I love the Colombian accent. My friend Gino, my baby Delanice, she speaks Spanish in a you know how Cubans talk. Oh yeah, you know what I mean. So it's like hearing like, so that's how I got introduced to Spanish. And I heard a guy speaking the other day. He was from Monterrey, and I literally couldn't place his accent. I couldn't understand anything he was saying. And I was like, and sometimes, and that's why I'm trying to find books in Spanish, because I reached the point where like I'm trying to improve my Spanish. And here's the problem that I ran into. I've learned phrases, I've learned grammar rules, I learned how to introduce myself, I practice stuff like ordering at a restaurant, I practice stuff like introducing myself, I practice stuff like talking about the past, talking about the future, talking in the present. But without a book or knowledge that you can just consume that shows you how to use these grammar rules, how it's being used. And the problem with just listening to a language is it helps a lot. Listening helps a lot, but reading helps too. So the problem that I ran into yesterday was I realized there's not a lot of representation for Spanish speakers, as much as like an outsider wouldn't get it. Like if you don't speak Spanish, if you're not learning Spanish, if you're not looking for books in Spanish, you won't understand what I'm saying more than likely, because you never had to experience it. But the fact that I live in a city where Spanish is spoken around the city, and almost all of the bookstores was English dominant, and one of the bookstores had a very small Latino section. And don't get me wrong, it's books by Latinos, but they're written in English. That's not going to help me, I already speak English. It's books from English speakers talking about Spanish, teaching people Spanish. But then I'm not looking for that. I already have a few of those type of books. I need a book in Spanish. Guys, do you know it took me, well, I'm gonna be fair. I found a few books at the first bookstore that was in Spanish, but it was kind of like I didn't just want to choose those because they were there. So they had a small section, and they had about 5 or 6 books in Spanish. And I'm like, these are cool. I was like, bestsellers and stuff. But I'm like, let me find something else. So I went to South Houston, and I went to Second Ward, and I went to Ironworks. If you're from Houston, you should know what Ironworks are. And so I went to Ironworks, and it's like a facility where you have a lot of local businesses, coffee shop, mocha shop, food shop. You got people selling stuff inside this warehouse. So I went there, and AI was like, they got a place called Dreamers. So finally I went there, I met the owner, Elizabeth, and she has a small bookstore, but I told her, I said, yo, do you know I had to purposely seek out this bookstore, that it wasn't as easy as it may sound to find books in Spanish. And so that just really blew my mind. I'm like, man, I don't want to get too political, so I'm not gonna go there, but I'm like, man, like imagine being a Spanish speaker, and in the whole city you can't even find a book in the language that your parents speak. You know what I'm saying? Like, you may have to go to several bookstores, and then the bookstores that do carry some books on Latino history or Latino culture is written from an American perspective. You know what I'm saying? It's written in English. It's written from American perspective. I bought some books to describe what I'm talking about. So I have this book right here, The Last Days of the Incas. This was a gold mine that I found. This one is by Nelson Reed, The Cash War of Yucatan history book. I got several. Like I said, I study culture. So I did find some really good books. That's not the point that I'm making. The point that I'm making is that it was difficult to find a book like this in Spanish. I had to travel, guys, over 30 miles to find a book in Spanish. And she had a really good selection, you know, and I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, you never know what people go through until you learn about their culture and you can see some of the world through their eyes. Like I have friends who only speak Spanish, okay? I know people who only speak Spanish. They don't speak any English, you know? And I just imagine like, man, what would it be like for them to come to Houston and they're forced to assimilate into English? And I think that so many people would benefit from learning a second language. I mean, just think about this, guys. You can go to school, K through 12, even secondary school, college, higher education, and never read a book in a foreign language. It could be Portuguese, it could be French, Spanish, German, whatever, language you're interested in. And I could understand some of the harder languages like Mandarin, Japanese, because the script is so different from ours, or even like Arabic. But they don't even like really teach cross translations in schools. So that's one thing that I learned I really experienced. I'm like, man, like, why is it that in the whole city, I was not able to find a book in Spanish like that I was really searching for, and I was not able to find a Bible in Spanish, a Biblia en español. Yo busco mucho. Nada. Pero todo es bien. In my opinion, el problema is la sociedad. Paz.